freeze. Berkowitz turned around and said, "Well, you finally got me." The officer asked, "Who do I have?" Berkowitz said matter-of-factly, "The son of Sam."
On the seat next to him in a brown paper bag is the .44 caliber gun that did all the shootings. No resistance, no shootout, no nothing.
There was a surreal feeling about it. We're finally putting a face to horror and terror.
Facing the public for the first time, Berkowitz could not keep from smiling. Berkowitz showed no obvious sign of his dark, vengeful interior. He was cooperative and polite. When detectives asked him why he had paid his parking ticket, he responded, "Because I am a law-abiding citizen." At a news conference, Nathan Berkowitz, now 68 years old, expressed his grief for the families of the victims.
So forth. Did you have any possible thought it might be David?
No, I did not.
Upon learning that it is allegedly he, what was your immediate reaction, and how did you get the news?
I cried.
I think that's enough, gentlemen, with respect to any further.
Berkowitz said he had been ordered to kill by demons originating from his neighbor Sam Carr, who he claimed was the devil in human form. For 8 months, Berkowitz was held in a bare-tiled room in the prison ward of the Kings County Hospital. A hearing was scheduled to determine if he was mentally fit to proceed to trial. During the first few weeks of his incarceration, guards reported that the son of Sam ate like a horse and slept like a baby. He rarely got upset and seemed to be indifferent to his plight. In tape-recorded interviews with psychiatrists, the son of Sam tried to explain himself.
And I had nothing against these victims. Who were these people to me? They were just people. I didn't hate them. I wasn't angry against them. So why did they do it? Well, Sam did it through me. He used me. He made me go out there and do it. I did it for him, for blood.
Right outside Berkowitz's window at the Kings County Hospital, a death rally was staged. Many New Yorkers were filled with bitter hatred for Berkowitz, but none more so than the parents of the 6 murdered and 7 wounded young adults.
After I saw what had happened to my boy's left eye, I had wished that his eyes could be taken out of his head for Robert's sake.
And I hope he lives a long time with this in his heart. And I hope he never has a minute's peace. Never. Never.
Just once I want to get my hands around his throat. He took something from me. So wouldn't you feel the same way? You'd want to get revenge, wouldn't you? And if anybody tells me no, I tell them they're sick.
Mike Loria and millions of other New Yorkers, and I have to say myself too, said, you know, yeah, he's got problems, mental problems, but he deserves to die. He deserves to die for what he did.
In May 1978, the son of Sam pleaded guilty to 6 murders. A few weeks later, on the day of his sentencing, David threw a tantrum and broke the restraints on his straitjacket. The officers subdued Berkowitz and brought him into the courtroom.
They bring him into court. He's subdued, but he looks around, he spots Nasa Moskowitz, and he starts yelling at her, "Stacy was a whore! Stacy was a whore!"
Before they could drag him out, Berkowitz screamed, "That's right, I'd kill her again. I'd kill them all again."
Nasa Moskowitz was standing up screaming at him, "You son of a bitch, you killed my daughter, you're gonna get killed yourself." It was an astounding moment.
Berkowitz was dragged from the courtroom biting and kicking. The sentencing was postponed. On June 13th, a greatly subdued Berkowitz stood before the court. The judge said, "It is this court's fervent wish that the defendant be imprisoned until the day of his death." The judge added that Berkowitz was an animal, and he wished he could have given him the death penalty. He was sentenced to 6 25-year-to-life consecutive terms and began his incarceration at the notorious Attica prison in upstate New York. The following year, in February 1979, Berkowitz announced that he had made up the story about the demons. At a press conference from Attica, He said he never heard voices, he was not insane, and he wanted nothing except to be left alone and to spend the rest of his life in prison. Later that same year, Berkowitz was almost killed by another inmate. Fearing retribution, Berkowitz refused to name his attacker. Following the attempt on his life, Berkowitz seemed to become more introspective about his crimes. He wrote in a letter that he did hate women, especially women who dance, he wrote, "I hate their sensuality." Berkowitz told a fellow inmate that he attacked women kissing in cars in order to prevent other illegitimate children from being born to suffer the way he did. Berkowitz settled into Attica and seemed to find some peace. For the next 14 years, he kept his silence with the public. Then, in 1993, Berkowitz came forward and revealed a new twist to the Son of Sam story that would capture the public's imagination once again. In 1993, David Berkowitz, after maintaining his silence in prison for 14 years, made a sensational announcement. He claimed that the Son of Sam killings were really the result of a satanic plot, that he had only killed 3 people, but was an accomplice in the others. Experts who have studied Berkowitz's criminal behavior find the story unbelievable.
David Berkowitz is a paranoid individual. He is not reliable. He is not the type of person that someone else would even want to team up with, nor is he the type of person that wants to share the glory with anyone else. He simply did it on his own.
Berkowitz has been living in prison almost as long as he lived on the outside. In 1987, he moved to his present home at the Sullivan Correctional Facility, a super maximum security prison for notorious felons.
Prison is a place of oppressive darkness. There's nothing here. Just lonely, broken men whose dreams have died. That's all that's here. It's like a hell.
I started reading my Bible and Jesus set me free.
A Baptist minister named Don Dickerman took it upon himself to teach Berkowitz about forgiveness.
Actually, I wrote David a letter in 1978 and basically said, David, God still loves you and Jesus can save you.
Amen. Amen.
Dickerman later formed a friendship with Berkowitz.
Love you. I love you too. Love you too.
In 1987, Berkowitz claims to have had a religious awakening and now calls himself the Son of Hope. His born-again testimony has been distributed around the world.
This heaviness, these heavy chains, these invisible shackles, these mental chains that I was wrapped around, see, for years and years, just kind of snapped.
Berkowitz works as a chaplain's clerk in the prison and is the only inmate allowed to work in a special cell block with fellow prisoners who have emotional problems and learning disabilities.
They need some help. They need someone to talk to, someone to help them make their bed and get them dressed and so forth, someone to be a friend and listen to them when they have their problems. And that's my job. I work with the guys as I have like a ministry of caring to them.
Some people doubt the sincerity of Berkowitz's religious awakening, saying that he is putting on an act for the parole board and the rest of the world.
David Berkowitz is sitting in jail today, hoping and praying that he can get out. And I know if you would release him, God forbid if we ever did, and we never should, but if you would